the Mitsubishi ASX was one of the first subcompact crossover SUVs in the market. Pero for some reason, hindi ito nagkaroon ng successor in the Philippine market for the past 8 years. Now in 2024, we finally have the Xpander-based Mitsubishi Xforce, officially marking the return of Mitsubishi in the subcompact crossover SUV segment. So syempre, if you're gonna be buying a subcompact crossover SUV, ang una mong papansinin as a Filipino buyer is of course yung kanyang forma. And the Mitsubishi Xforce delivers on that aspect because just take a look at it. Ang sobrang forma niya, it's very striking, very modern, and compared to past Mitsubishi vehicles, they've done a really good job with their current design language, their dynamic shield motif. What you now have here is a design that's less noisy, less caricature-like, and as a result, yung forma niya looks smoother, the lines are less in your face, and so totoo lang, it looks very European to my eyes. So maangas yung tindig ng Mitsubishi Xforce thanks to its striking T-shaped LED headlights and the trapezoidal front grille. Yeah, you have a pretty bold face here, and then moving towards the side, you're gonna see 18-inch wheels, and then being the GT variant, you have a black roof and black mirrors. Also down here sa bottom ng kotseng ito, you're gonna see a patterned black body cladding which sort of gives this car a very visually interesting side profile. Then as we move towards the back, you're gonna see those T-shaped lights again. It's being echoed here at the rear end of the Mitsubishi Xforce. And I think mag-a-agree naman yata tayong lahat that this is one of the nicest cars that Mitsubishi has done in recent years. So yeah, let's take a look inside the Mitsubishi Xforce to see whether the inside is just as nice as the car's striking exterior. So finally, we're here inside the Mitsubishi Xforce, and design-wise actually, I do think that the stylishness from the outside carries over to the car's interior. Immediately standing out here is yung kanyang fabric dash, which helps in giving the car a premium vibe despite the copious amounts here of hard plastic. But that's okay because most of the cars naman in this segment pretty much have a similar interior feel. So also worth mentioning, by the way, is that yung kanyang leather seats here have a sort of heat-resistant coating. Kaya when I had this car, by the way, na nakabilad sa araw for like a couple of hours, but the leather seats itself, ang maganda sa kanya is that they've resisted the heat of the surrounding areas. So pag upo mo sa interior, it's actually doing a pretty good job of resisting heat, and therefore hindi siya nakakapaso compared to some of the other parts of the interior. So that's a good job on Mitsubishi for that part. So let's talk about the tech part now, because in terms of yung kanyang cabin tech, you have here two screens, one for the driver and of course one here for the infotainment system with the expected wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. In terms of the resolution, it's actually pretty good, with the main infotainment being the sharper one in terms of the graphics. Yun nga lang, I have one minor gripe with the digital gauges because in terms of the way it looks, you have two modes, pero let's be honest, in terms of their diversity in choices, it's very narrow and one looks more confusing than the other. But graphically wise, in terms of the resolution, it looks pretty good nonetheless. At least it's configurable in a sense that you could display a lot of information here. And then, as you move towards the main infotainment screen, while the graphics are really nice actually, ang main gripe ko lang though is the response times of the infotainment system. So, yun nga, it looks nice. And one quirk that I would like to highlight here is the fact na yung kanyang wallpapers, by the way. Remember the Android phones before na meron kang parang animated background? You can sort of do that here in the Mitsubishi Xforce's infotainment system. So you can have an aquarium or off-roading trail, whatever. Though it does look nice, I don't think it's helping the frame rate of this infotainment system because it's really laggy actually. Mitsubishi's engineers, however, have acknowledged this, itong laggy infotainment system niya. So thankfully, there's a software update coming soon to address these concerns. Of course, worth mentioning, by the way, in terms of the infotainment system is, of course, the Yamaha sound system. It's really good in terms of aural quality. Apart from the Yamaha sound system, you also have the ambient lighting, which is in a blue shade or a blue hue at night. Then other stuff to highlight here in the Xforce is, of course, you have a wireless charging pad and dual zone climate control with Nano EX technology, or basically ionized air that helps kill bacteria and basically make the air fresher. Now, I think that's a good time for us to move to the back seats, which, as you're gonna see here at the back of the Mitsubishi Xforce, in terms of space, it's actually really good. So this seat, by the way, is in my driving position, and despite that, I'm able to basically mag-4 here sa likod ng Mitsubishi Xforce despite my 5'11" height. So this is my headroom. Legroom is really, really good nga as mentioned. So yeah, there's a lot of foot space here because the front seats are raised up quite a bit. So I can really stretch out here at the back of the Xforce. So that's really good on Mitsubishi's part here in making the Xforce's rear seats very spacious. Then as for amenities here, you have your rear aircon vents. You also have 2 USB fast charging ports, 1 USB-C and 1 USB-A. And then you also have here, by the way, a center armrest, of course, with 2 cup holders. The windows go all the way down, not quite, but that's still okay. Let's put this back up. Then worth mentioning, by the way, is that the seats here sa likod have a multi-stage recline. So this is the most reclined setting, yung pinaka most lean back setting niya. But if ayaw mo tong most reclined position, then that's okay because there's basically more settings for the recline. And that's perfect for me. So by the way, worth mentioning, one last item to talk about is that there's a pocket here sa likod ng front seats. So that's one place, I guess, for you to place your phone and mag-TikTok habang nasa likod ng Mitsubishi Xforce. Yeah, still one storage note to talk about, and let's now talk about the trunk space. Because here in the GT variant, by the way, you have a powered tailgate, and then once the powered tailgate is open, you're gonna see a very spacious trunk, especially considering the car size. So it's pretty much on par with some of the most spacious in its segment, and of course, bonus na nga yung the fact that this car is a powered trunk.
So of course, like the Xpander, the Xforce uses the same 1.5-liter gas engine. Pinagkaiba niya lang dito is it's using a much more modern CVT. So, how does the Mitsubishi Xforce perform on the road?
So as for the driving experience of the Mitsubishi Xforce, well, in terms of the driving orientation of the car, it feels pretty much like a comfort-oriented vehicle. So despite the sporty looks of the Xforce, hindi siya sporty to drive. That's not exactly a bad thing though, because you have to remember in the first place na most of the buyers in the subcompact crossover SUV segment are looking for a comfortable and relaxed driving experience. As we enter through these twisty roads here, you're gonna notice na yung kanang steering is on the light side. There's a bit of precision, though not exactly as precise as what you would expect it, for example, the Nissan Kicks e-Power or the Honda HR-V RS with the variable gear ratio steering. So again, yun nga, it's not exactly a sporty car, but rather, it's a comfort-oriented subcompact crossover SUV. For me, the TNGA-based Corolla Cross Hybrid is much better, or at least is my benchmark. My benchmark in terms of ride quality in this price point. But the Xforce is not too bad. Okay naman yung ride absorption na, so we're gonna be going through these imperfections. And yeah, it's actually dealing with those bumps really well. Yun nga lang when it comes to the smaller imperfections, the higher frequency bumps, for example, doon mas medyo pansin mo yung difference between the Xpander-based Xforce compared to, for example, the Corolla Cross that's based on the TNGA platform. Especially considering the price itong Xforce, since it's already at the 1.8G Corolla Cross Hybrid, it's still worth comparing these two cars with the hybrid Corolla Cross that's based on the TNGA platform, because in terms of the ride quality talaga, yun talaga yung the benchmark for me in the segment. And then as you will notice sa aking mga reviews, I always mention chassis rigidity because everything follows through with a very rigid chassis. So in terms of the ride comfort, wala ka masyadong shake. Here in the Xforce though, the chassis rigidity is okay. Yun na lang yung magiging term ko, it's okay. I find the Creta and especially the HR-V and the Nissan Kicks e-Power to be much more rigid cars. Then lastly, the drivetrain, yun nga, having mentioned electrification. For its 1.5 million peso price tag though for this GT variant, I do wish that it had a hybrid powertrain. Because while the powertrain is good enough, the 1.5 liter from the Xpander along with the CVT, also from the Xpander in overseas markets, again, it's good enough naman considering that the Honda HR-V, the basic version, is also a 1.5 liter non-turbo engine. But yun nga, if you're gonna hustle this car through corners, it sometimes will simulate a fake gear change, but for the most part, it will really hold on to the revs as you accelerate hard. So now we're gonna be going through an expressway, and how does the Mitsubishi Xforce perform in these scenarios? I'm gonna accelerate hard ngayon. So yun ang ibig ko sabihin na part na sometimes it will try to emulate or simulate rather a traditional automatic transmission. Actually, in terms of the stability and refinement of this car, this is actually pretty good. I'm currently impressed with the amount of road and wind noise, or the minimal amount of road and wind noise entering to the cabin. There's a good amount of stability with this car, especially at triple-digit speed, so that's good. So the car pretty much feels very relaxing to drive here on the highway. And then compared to the cars that I've driven in this segment, the quietest I think is the Nissan Kicks e-Power and the Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid. Road noise-wise is kind of on par with the Hyundai Creta. The powertrain at this point where you're driving on the highway is relaxed, so the revs are kept quite low, especially due to the CVT having that ability to make the engine cruise at a low RPM range. The Xforce is not a sporty car, it's a comfortable crossover SUV, and there's nothing wrong with that, mind you, because yun nga, again, as mentioned, a lot of people look for a comfortable car in the first place naman as opposed to something that's all out sporty. Now, that's a good time to talk about fuel economy because we're on the highway ngayon. So, with the 1.5-liter gas engine and the CVT combination, you expect this car to have excellent fuel economy numbers. And actually, it does deliver in that respect. So, currently, I'm doing around 12 to 13 kilometers per liter, which is really, really good. So, just imagine the Xpander if it had a CVT as opposed to the Force with automatic it currently still has today. Now, let's talk about finally the driver assistance tech of this Mitsubishi Xforce, because here in the GT variant, meron siyang a full load of advanced driver assistance tech ranging from adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning, lane keeping assist, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alert, and basically that's the TLDR with this car. It's a relaxing long-distance cruiser. It's comfortable, though not exactly the most comfortable in terms of the chassis rigidity part and the ride comfort, but it's still comfortable enough. Yun nga lang, it's a bit on the pricey side, especially for the range-topping GT. And I hope that this variant as well also gets, finally, a hybrid powertrain to truly compete with the Yaris Cross, for example, and the Nissan Kicks e-Power, and other electrified subcompact crossover SUVs.
Pricing for the Mitsubishi Xforce starts at a little over 1.3 million pesos. And that gets the base GLS, which comes with the 18-inch wheels, full LED exterior lighting, the 8-speaker Yamaha sound system, the dual screen layout, though it gets a fabric interior. The GT, on the other hand, comes with a contrasting black roof, a powered tailgate, a suite of advanced driver assistance systems, and heat-resistant leather seats. Driving dynamics-wise, the Mitsubishi Xforce doesn't stand out. There's nothing inherently wrong with the car, yet at the same time, there's nothing outstanding about it either. Where the Xforce stands out is with the way the car looks and the practical and stylish interior. We also recommend avoiding the GT because mas okay na mag-hybrid ka na lang at that price point. Otherwise, at 1.3 million, the Xforce is indeed a very compelling option.